welcome back to Gifted Guitars. Today we are continuing our work on JoJo Siwa's guitar. Today we are going to take this guitar and make all the holes for all the hardware to go into, and then maybe do some shaping of the guitar. The first thing we have to do though is put the neck on. The reason we're putting the neck on first is because I want to see what angle the neck ends up landing at on the guitar. I think it would be harder for me to shim the neck and adjust where it goes versus adjust where the bridge goes on the guitar. I don't know if that's true. I've never heard anybody talk about this, but that is my theory. So that's what I'm gonna do today. So we've got a little bit of a problem here. I put some holes in this with my drill press, and the holes kind of are a little too close to one side there. And as a result, it's kind of hard to see this, but I used some nails to just sort of mark where these holes were. So I put this in, hit some nails through, and it's hard to see, but this hole is right here, and that hole's right there. The real problem hole is over here. It's just so far off to the side. That is the mark that I'm the most concerned about because it is so close to the edge that I'm worried if I try and put a screw in here, it's just gonna break off this piece of the neck. I'm gonna go for it. If it doesn't work, then I have a lot more work to do. If it does work, then awesome, I have less work to do. Now you can really see how far off those holes are. See how off center they are? Hopefully it'll be fine, but I think that when the neck's on properly, this is how far over I had to go. I think the reason this all happened in the first place is I rounded off this edge here, so I need to come in a little bit with the screws, and that just set everything off to one side. Looks like a guitar, looks like a guitar. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. This is very exciting. This is very encouraging that this stays on here and looks like a guitar. I'm very excited, I'm pumped. Now I gotta see how far off the angle of the neck is from what my plans were. I feel like it's a little skewed this way, so the ends of the strings might have to go up the guitar a little bit. The nice thing about this guitar is it's an odd shape, which means that if it's up here or down here, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. But that's the whole reason I put the neck on first, is to see where the strings were gonna land, if they lined up perfectly on here, so then I could put the pole pieces in here and get started making the pockets for the pickups. But this is an exciting moment for me. My next step is to put a string here and a string here. So I've got to put the two tuners in place and line the strings up and figure out exactly where this piece needs to end up on the guitar. So I'm gonna string this up backward, which means that I'm gonna go from the tuning head down. That's not how you typically do it, but this is really, like, I'm not actually stringing up the guitar, I'm just using the strings as a guide. So I'm gonna measure from one end of the neck down to where the string should end, and then I'm gonna put the strings through, line it up with the bridge, which is this little piece I showed you a second ago, this guy right here, and then mark where this is gonna go, and then drill holes where it belongs. So far so good. I think that worked out pretty well. Hopefully the strings all line up at the end of the day, but for now, it's looking pretty good. I spent most of tonight figuring things out. It was sort of, the camera wasn't on, but I was really mulling over how, like what order to do things in and how to do it and how to work the drill press, because it's been a while since I've used a drill press. But I think I'm gonna call it a night for tonight, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. It is the next day, time to continue on. Looking at this now, I'm really glad I did it the way that I did it. You can see it's just slightly off center, but that would have made a huge deal if the strings were going along the center line. Like if I planned everything based on that center line as opposed to the angle that the neck ended up, the strings would have been way off. So I'm really, really glad that I did that. I should also mention that it is a little noisy in here today. The air conditioning's going, not in the garage, but in the rest of the house. So it gets noisy in here. I'm not gonna turn it off. That would be mean to the rest of the family. Now it's time to drill 2 holes right here and then figure out where these are gonna land, these pickups, where they're gonna land on the guitar based on where the neck and the bridge ended up. I'm excited about this. I think it's going really well. That all seems to line up pretty well. Now it's time to make the cavities for these guys, which means that I have to take the whole guitar apart. I also have this really cool acrylic template, which is gonna help me make those holes very precisely, and I'm very excited about it. So I have to say that I bought this template from StewMac, which is a cool company. They aren't sponsoring me or anything, but I did want to point out that this is really neat. The template actually screws into the guitar, which means it's not gonna slip anywhere while I'm doing the routing. The other template I had to like tape down. This one it's screwed in, so it's not gonna go anywhere, and the screws are flush with the top of the template. Awesome design, I love it. All right, let's see if she fits. Ooh, like a glove. All right, one more of those to go, and then on to the next thing. Now I have to carve out a cavity in the back of the guitar that all the electronics will go into, and it has to fit this cover plate that I ordered online. And I don't think I can freehand this. For a little bit I thought, oh, I'll get in there with the router and just sort of eyeball it and try and get it. I don't think that's gonna happen. So what I'm gonna do is take this piece of wood and cut out a template with a saw, and then use that template to get the router in there and get a nice deep cut. Okay, so here's where things start to get a little more complicated. Here's a top view of the bow, and if I put this over it, it matches up pretty nicely. On the back side of this, we need this little plate to sit, and it's gonna sit this way underneath it. And I need to line up however this is gonna be on the back with how it's going to end up on the front. Directly under this is gonna be all the tone knobs that go right here, these guys. So wherever these are gonna be, this has to line up underneath it exactly. So I had to kind of figure out a technique to get this to all line up properly when it's all said and done. And this is what I came up with. The first thing I'm doing is setting this up. This is where I think I want the tone and volume knobs to be on the guitar. And so this is where the cavity needs to be. I'm gonna take these off, and I'm gonna put some tape onto this cover, a loop of tape here, so it's sticky on both sides. Put it on the cover. Try not to move it around too much. Try and line it up with the design. And now I know exactly where that's gonna land. When I was building Colleen's guitar, some people in the comment section asked why I didn't just trace it out and cut it. The reason for that is it's really hard to control these blades. Once it catches on something, it wants to keep going. And if I didn't have a template here, a hard template, I wouldn't be able to steady that blade and make sure I make the proper cut. This gives me a guide that I can literally put this blade up against it, and it won't cut into here because it's just gonna ride along that ball bearing, but I'll still be able to cut out all that material inside. I debated with myself about this next part for quite some time. The original design has all these details that make it the ribbon that it is. And originally I was going to paint in those details with paint. So I was gonna paint these like fake shadows and fake highlights. But over time I've decided, and with the consultation of my wife and several other people, that those details should be a part of the actual guitar, not just some painting on top of it. I will be painting this some epic colors, but the actual design is gonna be built into the guitar, and the way I'm going to do that is with hand tools. So this should be a lot of fun. It's gonna take me a long time. So I'm gonna actually hand carve into the wood all the details that are gonna make this look like an actual bow. Well, not an actual bow, like a guitar bow, but you know. Okay, the whole time I was doing that, I kept thinking to myself, I can't believe that I'm like gouging pieces out of the face of this guitar. But I think it ended up looking really cool. I actually really like the way that it turned out. It's kind of hard to see on the camera right now with this lighting, but it's got all these ridges which will really help make it look more like a bow as opposed to just like a shape. And then I also cut out these cavities in the back. There's one more thing that I have to do before I can paint this, and that is to put the holes in for all the electronic business. So we've got the jack that the guitar gets plugged into, we've got the tone and volume knobs, that's 4 more holes, and then one final hole for the switch. The switch is gonna live somewhere up here, and then the 4 knobs, the 2 tones and 2 volumes, will go right over here. Now I'm a little nervous about this part. I think I might have been putting it off, actually, now that I think about it, because the holes that get drilled up here have to correspond with the carving that I did, as well as with the holes that I put into the back, because all of the electronic stuff needs to go into these cavities. And not totally sure how to line those up. So I gotta do some thinking and then make some holes in this, and hopefully they're in the right spot. Okay, I think I've come up with something. What I'm going to do is take a very small drill bit and drill a pilot hole from the back towards the front and see where that lands. If it lands in the wrong spot, that gives me the option to cover that over and start again. Whereas if I just went with a big drill bit straight through, I could end up in the wrong place and be sad. I'm trying to minimize my sadness here. I'm fairly certain that this is where one of these is gonna go through. And so I'm gonna drill a small hole, see how it looks on the front, and then go from there. All right, so that'll be there, and it kind of looks like this with the knob there. I think that's a good spot. We need to fit 3 more of these on here, plus keep in mind that there's a piece of metal right here. So I'm glad I did that, because this hole wasn't quite where I wanted it to be, and so I made another one right here, and I think that is gonna look a lot better, and I can cover that up no problem. And now we gotta drill a hole right here for the switch. Well, that's a problem. So it turns out I did not cut these cavities deep enough. The bottoms of them are still too thick for me to put the components through and screw them on properly. So I need to figure out how to get my router in even deeper than it was before, which I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do. So this is the longest bit that I have, and I extended it the furthest it can go into the guitar with a template in the way. And I think that if I ride this along the sides of the cavity instead of along the template, I'll be able to still keep the same shape but go that much deeper, which is about what I need. I'm starting to get really nervous about this, because if I'm wrong, it's gonna chip away the outside of the guitar and I won't be able to get that back. That one went through no problem, but as I'm looking at it, I'm realizing these ones might be a little more complicated. I carved into the wood here, so if I go the same depth or deeper here, I might pop through on the other side. So just to be safe, I'm gonna set the router so it doesn't go quite as deep, and I'm only gonna route around the area where the pot's gonna go. Pot stands for potentiometer, by the way. And hopefully I won't go too far into the guitar and have it pop out on the other side, because that would be a disaster. So it's not as pretty as it was before, but it sure beats coming through right up here where the wood is thinner. Now I have to drill some holes for the wire to go through, so I got this very special drill bit that's a lot longer than your average drill bit. Cool. Okay, so I need to be a little more strategic with this. I can't just go at what I think is an angle that'll work and make it happen. Sometimes I get comments like, how do you know how to do this? Where did you learn how to do this? The answer is, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just guessing. I've skimmed a few books, I've done some research online, but for the most part, I'm just going for it and fixing the mistakes as they happen. This was an unfortunate one, because the drill bit went through the guitar and through my table, and I didn't even realize it until the drill bit was like so deep into it. It was like the silliest. I only needed to go this deep to finish the thing I was drilling. I went like this deep. I went so deep into this thing. Anyway, I puttied it up, so that should be all right. And I'm coming up with a strategy for how to actually drill this in a way that makes sense. I have to have a wire that goes from this pickup to this pickup. That's what I was trying to drill before. And so what I'm gonna do is, instead of going here like this, I'm gonna go here, because this is the neck pocket. No one's gonna see this because it gets covered up by the neck of the guitar. So if I drill here, I'll be able to get a good angle and go through these two pickups here and just ignore this hole. I'm also gonna need wire that connects this to this and this to this and this to the jack at the end of the guitar. Why not do it all with one hole? If I go in from here, I'll be able to go through all 3 of those points, in theory. And the last and most difficult one is I have to get something to go from here to here. And for that one, I'm going back to my old technique of winging it. I think from here, I can get an angle that works so that I won't go out the back of the guitar. So I'm gonna try each of these techniques, see if I can get the guitar to have the holes that it needs, to get the wires that it needs, go into the places that it needs. Here's my plan. I set up the guitar on the drill press so that I could get the right height from the drill. So all I have to do with the drill is just ride it along the table so that I don't angle it one way or the other. Hopefully that'll help it stay straight this way. And then I drew a line where I want it to go, and as long as I keep that in line with the drill bit, in theory, I should be able to hit these 2 marks. Wish me luck. Well, now there's a hole running through the guitar to somewhere. It never came out the other side. So I'm not quite sure, like the whole length of the drill bit went into the guitar at this angle. I thought for sure it would pop out at least here at the pickups, but it never did. My theory is that it dipped down a little bit and went under. So it's like underneath the pickup somewhere. So I'm gonna have to come up with some other plan here. Well, I've already punched a hole through the back end of this thing, so might as well try that method again. Much more successful. All right, all the holes are in the places. All the guitars I've built leading up to this one have been kit guitars, and they basically come like this, like they're done. This part of the guitar's done, so I'm kind of starting right now where I start with every other guitar. I don't know, it's super satisfying carving this and messing up and then figuring it out and putting it back together, and it's been a very rewarding experience. I recommend doing something that you don't think you're ready for and trying it and seeing how it goes. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you like this video, if you like these kinds of videos, be sure to hit the subscribe button and be sure to turn on your notifications so you see when the next video gets posted. Speaking of the next video, the next step is going to be painting this. I'm very excited about it. I have a couple of cool ideas and theories on how I'm gonna do it, so be sure to tune in next week to see what I end up doing with this guitar. I think it looks really cool though. I really like the details that are on it, and I think it's gonna work. I think I put everything where it should be, so hopefully when I put the whole guitar together and wire it up, we get a beautiful bow sound. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.